Good morning, welcome to day 2 of sourdough starters. This is what we're making. So in jar A, which is Sydney, obviously we mix 40 grams of flour, 20 grams of bread, 20 grams of plain, so I'm using 2 different flours, and 40 grams of tepid water. Overnight there's not been much activity. There is a slight bready smell, yeasty, floury smell to it at the moment, so the yeast hasn't started cultivating yet, but it will do over time, and don't be disillusioned on the first day. There's not much activity. So what we're doing for jar A, we're going to do 2 methods with our process. So I'm going to remove a little bit of the mix. I'm going to remove half the mix and leave half the mix in there. And then we're going to do the feed-in stage. So I've just removed about 40 grams of the mix. So you may be able to see that, it's a little bit gloopy, not much happening. I did have a few air bubbles on there this morning, which is a good sign. Right, so to that we need to do the feed-in stage. So I've got my 40 grams of flour, 20 grams of each. Again, depending on what flours you're using, if you've got a wholemeal, use a wholemeal, or an organic, they're a lot better. So we're going to add the flour in, and I've got my tepid water that we spoke about yesterday. This one's sat around about 27 degrees, and this will just help. So what I'm going to do, zero off first, or zero your scales. We're going to measure out if and when my scales play ball. We're just going to measure, you can see that, we're just going to measure into a cup 40 grams of water. So until that then, we're just going to add that back into Sydney. And like I say, you're not going to see much activity for a day or two. We'll mix that up in a minute. And then we come on to Cedric. Again, this one's got slightly less flour and slightly less water. Again, it's got that floury smell. Not much happening. Again, there was a few air bubbles. I left mine out in the little conservatory area overnight, which was a bit cold. So probably what I'm going to do now for the next few nights is keep it out there in the day where it's nice and warm, but then at night I'm going to bring it back in, just into the kitchen where it'll stay a bit warmer, because you need to try and keep a constant temperature with the doughs, with the starter doughs, to see. So again, 10 grams of plain, 10 grams of bread flour, so 20 grams in total. Add in, and this is what we call feeding. So we're going to feed the mixes. I'm going to measure. I'm going to measure again, just 20 grams of water out, because grams are the same as mils in weight. So it's a lot easier way to measure. But just obviously make sure your scales are zero before you do this. And then we've got 20 grams of tepid water. Again, my water's sat, I'm just using my probe. The water's sat around about 27 degrees this morning, which is, I've used a little bit of hot water from the kettle, a little bit of cold water from the tap, just to try and get the balance right. If you don't have a thermometer, don't worry about it. Just let your water come up to room temperature, as we discussed yesterday on video 1. So they're mixed in. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to use my whisk too much. I just want to start binding this together. And then I'll use my little palette knife to start scraping down. So this is what we call feeding. So you're adding in fresh flour, fresh water each day. And then as we go through the stages, we'll maybe increase the flour, but just decrease the water slightly, to get better hydration. But you can see why we've done jar A, jar B. So jar A has more flour to water, but because we're removing some of the culture. If you don't have a lot of flour, then just do method B. So we're not wasting the flour. Now this should, hopefully now in the next day or two, we should start to see some activity. A few little bubbles. You will see some air bubbles, which is good. It means things are happening. I just want to make sure all the flour is incorporated in. You can see I got my jars from IKEA before the lockdown, I must say, before we were social distancing. And that's it. And that's how basically you're reading a lot of the recipes you have to feed. That's how you do the feed. I'm trying to do the feed each day at the same time. So it's roughly now, it's just gone 8 o'clock, Bob o'clock if you listen to Radio 2. And I'm just going to pop the lids back on, and that's it. If you need to scrape your sides down a little bit, feel free. And then I'm just going to put them back out in the warmth of the sun, but not in direct sunlight, because the direct sunlight can kill them. But probably at nights now, because the nights have gone a little bit colder with the lovely clear days we're having, I'm going to bring them back inside, probably around 6 o'clock, just when the temperature drops off, and keep them in the warmth of the kitchen. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 3.